Hello there, and a very warm welcome here to my channel. My name is Marie, and today we are going not so far. We are going to explore my town, Århus. This time in the beautiful spring weather. Last time we explored Århus, it was fall, and it was quite a different scene than it is now. We've had quite a cold spring and a very, very cold and long winter. So it's not a full blooming spring. There are still no leaves on the trees yet, but you do see signs of spring. There are little buds everywhere and a bit of flowers. So let's go out and see the first signs of the spring. And if you don't know where Århus is, it is here in East Jutland, mid-East Jutland here, right under the nose of the gnome that we know here as Jutland. Here we have Funen and we have Zealand, the two biggest islands of Denmark. So let's just grab a coat and a scarf and let's get outside. The morning is just beginning to unfold here in Århus, and the light feels so soft, like it's still deciding how bright it wants to be today. I'm walking around here in Latinerkvarteret, the Latin Quarter, where the streets are narrow and the buildings lean just slightly towards one another, as if they're sharing a quiet morning secret. The shops are still closed, but not for long. You can just feel that gentle pause before the day begins. This is a quiet kind of moment, a soft clinking from inside a café, a door unlocking somewhere down the street, the distant hum of a bicycle passing by. It's one of those early spring mornings. Still a little cold, enough to notice your breath. But the air feels different now, fresh and light. There aren't many people out yet, just a few early risers moving quietly through the streets. I can see now that people are slowly beginning to gather outside the cafés, sitting down, leaning into the first cup of morning coffee, meeting friends and speaking softly. There's something so relaxing about it, a quiet kind of joy in these small rituals, like everyone is easing into the day together. Little fashion boutiques, handmade ceramics, art tucked into a quiet corner, and specialty food shops that feel almost like a tiny world of their own. And some of the best restaurants in town are hidden along these streets. Places you might walk past if you're not paying attention. But once you find them, you remember them. In these streets, it really feels like stepping back in time. The narrow paths, the old facades, everything holding on to its stories. On a Saturday afternoon, this whole area is completely different. It's full of people, voices echoing between the buildings, laughter, footsteps, the sound of life everywhere. But right now, it just feels so calm. Like the city is letting you see a quieter side of itself before everything begins. And it's really nice just to walk here like this. As I walk further along into Moesgaard, I notice a little vintage shoe shop. And just a little further down, a vintage dress shop filled with fabrics and colors from another time. I can't help but imagine stepping inside, running my hands along the dresses, trying them on one by one, and getting lost in a different era just for a while. But the shop is still closed, and maybe that's part of the charm, just imagining it for now. Oh, and right here, it's Il Mercante, a small Italian specialty shop. They make the most amazing Italian sandwiches in here. Fresh Italian bread, simple ingredients, but everything tastes like it's made with such care. And inside, there are so many little things to discover. Olive oils, cheeses, and sweets. The kind of treats you bring home and save for later. I continue walking slowly through the cozy, winding stretch of Moesgaard. Unhurried, just letting the streets guide me forward. And just here on the corner, this is Café Casablanca. It has this warm, inviting feeling, even from the outside, like it's always ready to welcome people in, no matter the time of day. It's said that our King, Frederick X of Denmark, had a fondness of this place when he was younger and stopping by whenever he was in the city. You can almost imagine it. The quiet conversations, the clinking of the glasses, layers of stories resting in the walls. And as I look ahead, I can see the Hotel and Casino Royal standing there with a kind of quiet elegance. It's one of the oldest hotels in the city, dating all the way back to the 1800s. And over the years, it has welcomed all kinds of guests. Royalty, artists, writers, musicians, or just people passing through. And people who stayed long enough to leave a trace behind. And just here by Aarhus Cathedral, which we visited the last time we visited Århus, we find the equestrian statue of Christian X, quietly watching over the square. The horse stands strong and still, while Christian X of Denmark sits upright, calm, steady, and almost timeless. This big square is called Store Torv, Grand Square or Main Square. A place that is usually full of life, energy, and movement. But for right now, it's just quiet and peaceful. The morning light settles gently over the square, and everything feels like it's paused, just for a moment, before the city fully wakes up. I slowly walk toward Strøget to take a look at some of the shops that have just opened. And just here I pass by this beautiful restaurant, Clementine. It looks so elegant, almost quietly tucked into the street. The kind of place you notice and remember. I find myself thinking I would really like to come here someday and try this out. Maybe in the evening when the lights are low and everything feels a little bit more intimate. But for now, I'm just going to keep walking slowly, enjoying this calm moment before the city fills up again. And here now is Clemens Bridge, or in Danish, Clemensbro. It stretches gently over the city's river and connects the lively streets of the center on both sides. It's one of those quiet meeting points in the city where people pause for a moment and just look out over the water or simply continue on their way. Århus actually means house of the river. Å means river and hus means house. I continue walking across the bridge, and at the end of it I notice a familiar interior design shop called Sinnerup, one of my favorites. Just take a look at all these beautiful flowers. I step closer just to take a look inside. Everything is so beautifully arranged. Soft lighting, warm textures, and carefully styled spaces. My eyes land on a beautiful picnic basket, and suddenly my mind drifts. I start imagining slow spring days and warm summer evenings, picnics by the beach, maybe some rosé, delicious Italian sandwiches shared with someone special, while the sun slowly sets over the horizon. For a moment there, it feels like that scene is almost real. And then my stomach quietly reminds me I still haven't had breakfast. A soft rumble is pulling me gently back into the present. I smile to myself and decide it's time to find a café. I decide to take a slightly different way, continuing a bit further down Strøget. As I walk, I pass the Danish design shop, Georg Jensen. There's some beautiful jewelry displayed in the window. Timeless, yet modern, catching the light in a quiet, elegant way. Then I continue and walk through a small passage. St. Clemens Passage. It opens gently onto the corner of Frederiksgade, where the atmosphere shifts just a little. There are bars and nightclubs here, places that come alive after dark. And standing here now in the quiet morning, it feels almost surreal. These streets hold so many memories, laughter, music, late nights that turned into early mornings. I can almost hear the echoes of it. But now everything is still. I keep walking, crossing Mindeparken toward Magasin du Nord and the river. Just below it runs Åboulevarden, which translates to Aarhus River Boulevard. This whole area follows the river, Århus River, often simply called Åen in Danish. The river runs right through the heart of the city, and this stretch is especially known for its cafés, restaurants, and relaxed urban atmosphere. The sign outside says, "Any coffee on the menu and a sourdough bun with cheese for only 50 kronas. That feels just right to me. Usually it's difficult to find a seat here, but this morning almost all tables are empty. So I choose a spot right by the river facing the sun. The light is soft and gentle, resting quietly on the water. Around me are just soft city noises, low voices, and the delicate clinking of cups and plates. Everything feels unhurried and slow and relaxed. Nothing like the busy hours later in the day. I take a sip of my coffee. It's warm and comforting, and a bite of the fresh bread. Simple, but just perfect. And somehow, in this moment, it all tastes better in the sunlight. After soaking up the sun for a while and enjoying the calm atmosphere, I decide it's time to step away from the city just before it gets too busy. There's no rush today. This is just the kind of day that's meant to be savored slowly. Taking in every detail, breathing it all in. I begin walking toward the bus stop at Klostertorv. On the way, I pass Café Smagløs, Café Tasteless. A slightly different but really charming little place. I've had so many beautiful moments here. Long conversations, quiet reflections, laughter that stayed with me long after. I can't help but smile just thinking about it. And just behind it, I catch a glimpse of Vor Frue Kirke, also known as Church of Our Lady. It's one of the oldest churches in the city, with parts dating all the way back to the 11th century. I arrive at the bus stop, and soon bus 100 arrives. I get off at Strandvejen and pause for a moment. The sea opens up in front of me, calm and endless. I just stand there, taking it all in. I turn and begin walking up the street towards the park. The houses here feel almost majestic, large and elegant, quietly standing in the sunlight. Then I find a small passage leading into Mindeparken. I step right into Moesgaard Manor, nestled in the northern end of Mindeparken. There's a beautiful statue here and a pool. The statue features a woman pouring water into the pool. I think this is a scene taken out from Greek mythology. And the sun is reflecting the pool, which lies quietly in the center, mirroring the sky above. In a few short months, or even weeks, this place will be full of colorful, big flowers all over. I'll make sure to come back if you would like me to. Everything here feels thoughtful, almost meditative. A place made for slowing down, for observing, for simply being. I step onto the path and begin to walk slowly. The park feels full of new life. There are tiny buds on the trees, fresh green tones beginning to appear, everything quietly waking up. There's a softness to all of this, a sense of beginning again. And as I walk, I feel it, a deep sense of joy and life. The sunlight is resting warmly on my face, the air fresh and full of promise. And for a moment, nothing else matters. I continue walking deeper into the park. In the middle of this path, here stands the biggest monument of the park. It's a large circular structure made of limestone, raised in memory of the Danish soldiers who fell in the First World War. It stands here quietly, yet with a strong presence. The monument was inaugurated on the 5th of September 2012, on Denmark's Flag Day for deployed soldiers, created to honor those who have served abroad in Danish duty. A project brought to life through dedication, supported by the local Soldiers Association and funded by Denmark's Veteran Fund. The night before its unveiling, it was covered in red paint by unknown hands. But by morning, it was carefully restored, ready to stand as it was meant to. I slow down as I approach it. The surface is still, but filled with names. Names carved into stone, each one carrying a story, a life, a memory. I let my eyes move gently across them, not reading, just noticing. How many there are. The sunlight touches the monument softly, resting on the engraved letters, casting small shadows into each name, as the light itself is tracing them, remembering them one by one. There's a quiet weight here, but also a kind of peace. The park continues around it, birds and soft wind in the trees. Life moving forward, while this place holds still. And I stand there for a moment in silence. walk toward a quiet little oasis in the park, a place that feels like stepping back in time and is filled with peace and nostalgia. There are small streams, little bridges, and old charming farmhouses. It feels almost like a fairy tale. This place was the inspiration for so many childhood games, stories, and endless imagination when I came here as a child. In the summer, this place fully comes to life, with the most beautiful rhododendron bushes in bloom, rich in color, almost glowing. I continue walking uphill toward the cherry grove. And to my joy, it has already begun to blossom. Soft pink buds and tiny flowers just starting to open. Everything feels so delicate and so new, like newborn babies. Like their very beginning of something beautiful. I step out of Mindeparken and cross the street toward Marselisborg Palace. I feel a quiet sense of anticipation. I've been here before in the autumn, but today it feels different. It's springtime, and I want to see how everything has changed since I was here the last time. Already along the path here, I see small dandelions appear, like tiny suns in the grass, greeting me as I walk. I slow down as I enter the gardens. Marselisborg Palace Gardens stretch out around me, covering about 13 hectares. They were designed in the early 1900s by landscape gardener L. Christian Dietrichson, in collaboration with Queen Alexandrine. The style is inspired by English gardens with wide open lawns, surrounded by trees and small quiet lakes. And scattered throughout the garden, there are so many beautiful artworks. As I continue along the path, something smooth and bright catches my eye. This is the super ellipse egg, created by the artist Piet Hein. A form that feels both mathematical and strangely alive. The surface is smooth, fiberglass, coated with metal, reflecting the soft spring light. It almost glows quietly, like it holds something within it. The shape isn't quite a circle, not quite an oval, but something in between, balanced, harmonious. Piet Hein called it super ellipse, a form he believed captures a kind of natural perfection found both in science and in the world around us. Gently, I continue walking. A little further along the path, I notice another figure, a bit more delicate, almost quietly emerging from the surroundings. This is the siren, created by Prince Henrik of Denmark in 2012. There's something gentle about the siren, a softness in the form, as if she belongs to both the land and to the water, a mythical being, often associated with the sea, with longing, with quiet mystery. And standing here, so close to the coast, it feels so fitting. The surface catches the sunlight in small, subtle ways, not shining brightly, but glowing softly, as if she's meant to be discovered slowly. I walk around her, noticing how she changes depending on where I stand. Sometimes strong, sometimes almost fragile. I pause for a moment. There's something reflective about her, something that invites you to slow down, to listen. Not to sound, but to feeling. And then I move on gently. As I follow the path, I come across something simple, yet deeply striking. This is Open Heart, also created by Prince Henrik of Denmark in 2009. At first it feels almost minimal, a form that doesn't try to impress. But the longer I look, the more I feel it. An open heart, something vulnerable, unprotected, and yet strong enough to remain open. The surface carries the light softly, not demanding attention, just quietly present. I stand there for a moment, thinking about what it means to stay open, to life, to love, to everything that comes with it. There's a kind of honesty in it, something very human, especially here in a royal garden, where you might expect something more distinct, more formal. But this feels personal. It was once exhibited at Århus Art Museum as part of an exhibition celebrating Queen Margrethe II of Denmark and Prince Henrik. I take a slow breath and let the moment settle before I continue walking. As I move a little further into the garden, a taller form begins to rise in front of me, more solid, more grounded. This is steel, created by Per Kirkeby, a structure that feels almost architectural, like something between sculpture and building. It stands firmly in the landscape, quiet but with a strong presence. The surface feels textured, earthy, as if it belongs to the ground it stands on, as if it has always been here. A steel, traditionally, is something that marks memory, history, a moment in time. And this one was given as a gift from the Salling Foundation to Margrethe II of Denmark on the occasion of her 80th birthday. A sculpture that feels lasting and enduring, placed here in a garden that continues to change with the seasons. As I wander a little deeper into the garden, I notice a tall, slender figure ahead, almost weightless, as if it's about to take a step and rise into the air. This is Grand Passeur, the Great Ferryman, created by Nicolas Laveran in 1994. The sculpture is made of bronze, yet it feels surprisingly light. Elongated limbs, a body stretched between movement and stillness, as if it belongs somewhere between worlds. The ferryman, a figure who carries souls from one place to another. A symbol of transition, of crossing, of quiet journeys. As I continue along the path, I come across two forms, closely connected, almost inseparable. This is Le Grand Couple, the Great Couple, created by Henri-Etienne Martin in 1977. The shapes are abstract, not clearly defined, and yet unmistakably human. Two bodies fused together, not as separate figures, but as one shared form. I walk slowly around it, trying to understand where one begins and the other one ends. But that's exactly the point. There is no clear boundary. It feels like a quiet expression of love, not dramatic, not loud, but something deeper. Connection, closeness, a merging of two lives. The surface carries the marks of time, and I remember this is one of the oldest sculptures in the garden, and somehow that makes it even more fitting, because love, when it lasts, becomes something like this. Not perfect, not defined, but strong, enduring, and quietly present. Further along the path, I come across a sculpture that feels more grounded, almost ancient in its present. This is a milestone, created by Inge-Lise Kofod in 1990. It is made of stone, gneiss and granite, solid, enduring. I move a little closer. The surface is marked with symbols, simple yet deeply meaningful. Her work is a tribute to life, to everything that grows, changes, and continues. Inspired by skulls, fossils, insects, and the quiet patterns of nature. It was given as a gift from the port of Copenhagen to Margrethe II of Denmark on the occasion of her 50th birthday. A milestone, both in name and in meaning. I walk slowly through the garden, surrounded by fresh green and delicate spring flowers. Everything feels so alive and new and quietly unfolding. And then, ahead of me, something large begins to appear. Rising from the landscape, this is Marselisborg, the Marselisborg jar, created by Peter Brandes. It stands almost 5 meters tall and weighs more than 6 tons. Yet somehow it doesn't feel heavy. The form is simple, ancient, like something from another time. A vessel, a container for something unseen. It was created in 1998. And like many of Brandes' monumental jars, there's something elemental about it, earth-shaped by fire. transformed, yet still carrying its origin within. I walk closer, tilting my head slightly, trying to take in its full scale. It was given as a gift from the Toosby Foundation, a quiet gesture placed here in the open landscape. The sunlight rests along its curved surface, tracing its shape, bringing out the subtle tones, warm and earthy, alive. And in the middle of this blooming spring garden, it feels like a meeting point between nature, art, and time. I continue along the winding path through the soft spring garden, where everything feels freshly awakened, green leaves unfolding, flowers gently opening towards the light, and then another sculpture appears ahead of me. This is Omfavnelsen, the embrace, created by Prince Henrik of Denmark in 2010. It is made of bronze and shows two figures held closely together. At first it was called the Lovers, then the Kiss, but in the end Prince Henrik chose a different name, the Embrace. And somehow that feels exactly right. Not just passion, not just a moment, but something longer and deeper. A holding, a staying. I walk slowly around it. The forms are soft, flowing into one another. There is no separation, only connection. Prince Henrik explored this motif many times, in small, medium, and large versions, in bronze and marble, as if trying to capture one feeling in many different ways. And here in this garden, the original version rests quietly. A gift from him to his wife, Margrethe II of Denmark, on her 70th birthday. I stand there quietly and let the feeling settle before I continue walking. I continue walking toward the western end of the garden, where the landscape opens into a quiet rose bed. And there something unexpected appears. This is Villa Margarinely, a delicate garden pavilion with a copper roof. It was originally a spire from Otto Münster's margarine factory in Copenhagen, a building that once stood in Vestbygade in the southern harbor area before it was demolished in 1981. This spire is the last of 4 that survived, and somehow it found a second life here, far from its industrial origins. I leave the rose beds behind and continue along the soft garden paths. And then something darker appears ahead of me. Strong, simple, and unmistakably present. This is Untitled by Robert Jacobsen, installed in 1992. It is made of iron, and it carries that very distinctive language of Jacobsen's work. Bold lines, geometric structure, and an almost industrial honesty. There is nothing decorative about it, nothing soft or hidden, just iron shaped into form, standing openly in the landscape. I continue deeper into the garden, where the paths begin to feel quieter again, more enclosed, more intimate. And then a new figure appears ahead of me. This is Mesken, the mask, created by Prince Henrik of Denmark. and installed in the Palace Garden in 2014. It stands there about 1.5 meters tall, modest in size but striking in presence. At first glance, it feels mysterious. A face, but not fully a face. A mask, but not something meant to hide. Perhaps more something meant to reveal. Prince Henrik was deeply involved in his own artistic work, and this sculpture is one of many he contributed to the garden, blending abstraction with human form. The surface feels expressive, almost emotional in its texture, as if different expressions are layered into the same form. There is something quietly theatrical about it, like a character paused in mid-performance, frozen in a moment we cannot quite read. I continue along the path where the garden begins to open slightly again. And then a stone structure appears ahead of me. This is Malteserboen, the Maltese arch. It stands with a quiet sense of dignity, framed by the garden around it. A gift from the President of Malta in 1977, offered to Prince Henrik of Denmark as a gesture of gratitude for a royal visit. I continue walking through where the path feels calm again, and then a newer presence appears ahead of me. This is tak, which means thank you in Danish. This was created by Johnny Haugaard in 2024. It stands quietly in the landscape, yet carries something much larger than its form. This sculpture is a gift from the people, and it holds something very special. 6,203 personal messages collected from people in Central and Western Jutland, along with symbols representing every municipality in the region. I walk closer, and the meaning begins to feel almost overwhelming. Not just a sculpture, but a collective voice. Thousands of small thoughts, memories, words of gratitude, and fragments of life, all brought together into one physical form. There's something deeply human about it. The idea that so many individual stories can exist together in one place without losing their uniqueness. I stand there quietly, letting the idea settle. I take a slow breath and continue walking. I continue along the quiet garden paths, where the spring air feels warm now, and the light moves gently through the trees. I just want to take one last look at this small part of the garden with all the incredible sculptures that we saw the last time. I already described these sculptures in my autumn video about Århus, but I want to see them now in a different light, in a different season. Spring instead of autumn. Fresh green instead of fading leaves. And somehow they feel slightly changed, even though they remain the same. There's something beautiful about returning, about seeing familiar places transform with time. And I know I will come back again in the summer, when the roses and the rhododendrons are in full bloom, and the garden yet again changes and feels completely alive again. For now, I slowly leave the palace garden behind, carrying all the beauty and the calm with me. It became quite a long day in the garden, and I feel hungry again. So I decide to small by a local cafe to get a sandwich and some fresh juice. And then I will head toward the old Moesgaard Manor Gardens, a quiet place where I can sit and eat my lunch. Moesgaard Manor was originally established as a manor estate in the mid-1500s. The estate was completely destroyed during the Swedish Wars, and the owner, Mogens Friis, sold the burned-down property in 1662 to the Dutch-born financier Gabriel Marselis. Marselis, who became notorious for his business methods, acquired a large number of bankrupt estates around Århus during the 1660s. Moesgaard was later rebuilt as an elegant manor house around 1780 by Count Christian Frederick Gyllenkrone. Gyllenkrone was forced to put Moesgaard up for forced auction in 1822 in the aftermath of the Danish state bankruptcy in 1813. The state took over the estate, but later sold it again in 1838 to the partners Müller and Dale. Later, Governor Th. Christian Dale became the sole owner in 1844. After his death in 1872, Moesgaard remained in the family's possession until 1960, when Aarhus County acquired the estate and converted it into a museum. I step into the grounds of Moesgaard Manor, and immediately the atmosphere shifts again. The city feels far away now in this wild, blooming nature. Here everything is softer, slower, and more rooted in nature. The old manor garden unfolds around me like a quiet landscape painting. Gentle slopes, scattered trees, open grassy spaces, and the feeling of being held inside something timeless. As I walk further in, I come across one of the most iconic sculptures here, Hesten. The sculpture shows the skin and head of a horse, motionlessly hanging, as if life has been removed, leaving only form and memory behind. There's no movement here, only stillness. It feels raw, almost confronting, a sudden interruption in the softness of the garden. And yet it remains part of the landscape, quietly present among the trees and grass. Further along, I pass the small and unexpected Thai house at Moesgaard. This beautiful Thai house stands on stilts. The house originally comes from Ayutthaya, which was once the capital of what was then called Siam, now Thailand. It was given as a gift to the museum in 1975 in connection with a major exhibition about Thailand. The house is approximately 100 years old and was originally part of a larger building complex. It appears almost like a dream placed in the middle of Danish nature. I find a quiet sunny spot nearby the house, protected by trees and softly lit by the afternoon sun. I sit down here with my lunch, a simple meal, a delicious tuna sandwich, and a fresh juice to drink. And I just let myself enjoy and be still and take it all in. The warmth of the sun touches my face. The sound of leaves moving gently in the wind surrounds me, and everything feels completely unhurried and relaxing. I watch the light shift through the branches, and for a moment, nothing else is needed. This day feels like it will stay with me for a long time. A quiet memory of walking, of art and nature, of stillness and spring light. Eventually, I finish my meal, feeling full of impressions and food, and I now feel ready to go home. Not in a rush, just carrying all the calm with me. So that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this beautiful spring day with me just as much as I did. And I will look forward to another beautiful excursion somewhere in Denmark together with you. And there's a lot more to see, I promise. So until then, stay well and be blessed and have a good sleep. Bye bye.